3, 4, 5. Anybody else who joins in late, you'll add them to the list. So I'll call this meeting Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:01. David has his flag, so if you'll join us in the pledge, that would be good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so public input. Don't know as we have any members of the public here today. If so, you're going to unmute yourself and talk. And hearing nothing. No additional correspondence either. So I will make a motion that we go on to approval of meeting minutes. So I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes of January 26th, 2022.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. There was just one thing that maybe I just didn't state clearly in the police station portion of the meeting about the change orders. And I think instead of having you amend the meetings, I'll put it in my update during the police station project part of the meeting. Because the change orders, change order number 8, which was proposed change order number 125, is the only one that had to be voted on and signed by Matt. The others, 121, 22, 23, 24, were basically the agreed upon amounts that were going to be used out of the construction manager's contingency to complete the exterior of the firing range. So there weren't things that we had to vote on ever at any point, but we'll do that during that section. Does anybody else have anything that needs to be either updated, amended, et cetera, with the meeting minutes? Everybody good? So we'll vote. All in favor? Aye. Got everyone. Anybody opposed? And is there anyone that needs to abstain? Oh, because everybody was present last time, so that passes. Okay, so we'll move on to our old business. We'll start with the school project, Rockwell and Johnson schools. We'll go by the bullets, and if there's any other, being a regular meeting, if there's anything else that we need to add in, we can do that. So closeout progress and completion update. We're starting with Ken and Jim. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So we have Ferguson closed out, just waiting for him to sign his last 2 change orders and send them back to me. Then we'll get his payment application in. And we're close with priority right now.
Because I noticed on the your application for payments that the largest amounts of pending or retainage or still due were both Ferguson and priority. So you're still working on those. Yeah.
Earth Movers has some retainage out there as well.
Uh-huh.
But I believe that was waiting on the field.
So are there, do we want to, because the site work punch list, you know, if there's nothing else on any of the, instead of jumping into that, the school projects, does anybody have any questions or comments on other parts of the pretty much the remainder of either school, not just the site work part?
Nancy, is there a way we can get a copy of the punch list?
The whole entire punch list, the site work punch list, because most they're all on the.
About what's pending.
So, I think it's all on the shared drive. I don't know as if the entire punch list has been updated and consolidated. I think it's more of the entire punch list, and then things are added and checked off. Geraldine, I don't know if you've seen any updated versions or.
Yeah, no, the only thing that's pending is approval of the final site work quality and finish. In terms of punch list, if there are, I know that there's one item at Johnson School for Ferguson. I know Ken's on top of it and they're taking care of it. Yeah, I think that we're done with punch lists. There may be some warranty work that's coming up, and that we have not been keeping any track of. So are you thinking of something in particular, Bob, or just?
Well, not really. I just wanted to see basically where we are, if there's anything you want me to check on or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're on and I know we're going to get into it with site work. Even on the site work, we're just waiting for the results of the topsoil testing that Beth Cavagna asked for. So even in terms of site work, we're either, we have what we have there. Either we're going to accept the site work as it is, I think, or not. And that's still pending based on any further comment. I think Jim was pursuing with priority, and then waiting for these test results. And Ken can talk about the soil testing in a minute, but there are not any other items on the inside of the building that are still pending in terms of punch list.
Okay.
So Geraldine, I had a couple of things. So I know when we met about the potential doors, you had
Yep.
taken some photos, you were following up with Ken. Was some of that Ferguson, or we just have to we're closing the book because now we're closed out with Ferguson? Just tell me how we proceed.
Sure. So when I took pictures of the low voltage cabling in the fifth grade lobby at Johnson, that is a Ferguson issue. They need to wrap the blue so that it goes away in a black, with a black material. Ken, that is the thing that I related to Ken. Ken said that they are proceeding with that work.
Okay.
The only other item was really those strobes, the fact that the strobes were tilting away from the building. And I know ESC, Bob can probably report on that. I know ESC came out and took a look at them. But those are sort of new items, that we hadn't flagged on a punch list before. So I kind of consider that, warranty catch-up work, day 2 work.
Okay. So with
And-
Ferguson, they're going to do this small amount of work and then we're good. We're good there.
And that's one reason why they're not on this current requisition, because there was still that work to be done. And then as Ken reported, outstanding just paperwork related to punch lists, whether it was internal for the CM's contingency or for this work. And I expect this all to be cleared up for the next requisition. And then they will bill out both on Ferguson on both schools.
Okay. And then are you going to speak about ESC and
Yeah, so that was the other.
That'll be another
That's right.
topic. We'll get to that. Okay.
Well, no, I could speak to it now, but I was going to say that
Okay.
is that's the other set of items, but they're not obviously Rizzo punch list
Right,
items. They're
Right.
items. And I see daily a flurry of emails back and forth of ESC responding to issues with the visual display boards or, mounting brackets or other items that we're now trying to catch up on and get them to respond to. But Bob, do you have an update on any work with ESC?
Yes, they were here day before yesterday, and they took care of the magic monitors because what was happening in the main offices, they were showing if there's a lockdown, it says it right on the screen, and it really shouldn't say that because the lockdown was probably being caused right in the main office. But anyway, they gave us all the credentials in order to get in to change that programming. They did that. But I have one issue that I think needs to get checked into. Since the beginning of the project, since the water fountains all were installed, they've been black bagged because of COVID. With the project starting to end now, I think those bags should come off and these tested before they're turned over, because it looks like not too long from now, we're going to be maskless in the schools and we'll probably get back to using the fountains. So before we close this issue out, I think a check
They were tested, Bob,
be made of all the
just
fountains.
recently. The Allstate came back, he had a couple leaks and he fixed the leaks and he tested every one of them at Johnson. I went behind them and tested them myself, and I actually found two that still had a leak. And when I was sending him the email, he sent me an email saying he had two that he had to still go back and do that he found when he was doing it. So he went back and replaced those two seals. So they've all been tested at Johnson, and I think Ryan would confirm that.
Okay, what about Rockwell?
We never had any issues at Rockwell. I think there's
No, but what I'm trying to say though is, once we take the bags off, you guys may be gone by then. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I think they should at least be taken off, tested. Because I'm
yeah.
sure-
Anytime you want to do that, Bob, just take the bags off and test them. I mean, when they put the bags on, they were working.
Okay, all right.
And
So-
all of that, and the water was tested at the conclusion of the construction project, and Laura Vasile got the results of all the water tests. So at one point, all of that system was operational and acceptable. So I think if we need to coordinate something when you do finally put them in that, regular operation, maybe we can look at having the plumbers come back then, or if they're not working at the time that you take them off and clean them up.
Okay, I'll make sure a function check is made of each one of them. Thank you.
So
Because I-
Bob, to
like
go back to the magic monitor, this morning you said you were concerned though that one was stopped working again and had the screen was showing the lockdown again. It was,
Yeah.
were you able to resolve that, or is that still an issue?
No, I put a call into, I didn't get a call back. And then I got tied up with Eric, but I'll call the first thing in the morning.
Okay.
What
'cause we
happened
did-
was when the custodians came in this morning, they noticed what we did 2 days ago came back again overnight. And we don't know, did someone push the lockdown button? It's undetermined. But Anthony did check, my custodian did check, and the button wasn't activated. So it's an ESC problem, and I'll talk with him first thing in the morning.
So at Rockwell School in the main office, the lockdown notification was up again, showing on that screen in the main office.
Right, and that was after we reprogrammed it out.
Right. So that's still an open item with ESC.
Right.
And then the other open items, Geraldine, with ESC, maybe, and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, or if there's any misinformation. But Dr. Carver believes that we still need some training on the hearing impaired equipment and the equipment in the gym and the CAF. So she feels that our staff didn't receive all that training they're supposed to get.
All right, I'll follow up again. We did talk to them about training and, submitting the copies of the warranties and contact information for ongoing issues.
Yes.
I thought it was control and being taken care of, but I will specifically ask about the training. And I think I do still have an email on which school needs which training, so I will
And she
do
did
that.
mention the warranties, so that also, I think, is an open item in her mind unless it's been provided.
I don't know, because I did get an email from Chris Jocks at ESC saying that, yes, some of the things that we were asking for had been provided or taken care of, but I'll follow up on a point-by-point basis.
Okay, great.
So can I just go a step back onto Bob's question about the water fountains? And Ken, I understand what you were saying, that there were a lot of them in certain areas of both schools, both Rockwell and Johnson, were functional before COVID. They were being used. They were out there. They had been tested, et cetera. And then there were some before the black bags were put on that were not being used because that part of the school had not been finished. After the COVID shutdown, the ones that you said at Johnson were the ones that you went around and checked, all of that. But the Rockwell ones were pretty much functional, ready to go, and actually being used before the shutdown happened, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if Bob, if it you know, either you or some of your guys or whatever, if you feel best to just sort of check them yourselves, then they have been checked. However, you want to check them again just to make sure before
Yeah.
we're totally closed out that,
Okay.
you know, you can, you know, get that going with some of your guys and just check them all.
Will do.
Because I think you're right that the bags are going to be coming off soon. You want to make sure each one's functional. And then going back to the punch list, just the whole idea of the punch list, is there a point at which somebody reviews the punch list, somebody, Geraldine or Joe or Ken or Jim or whatever, reviews that whole punch list? Because we do have the original punch list that were pretty extensive and a lot of pages because they were in phases. So at the end of each phase, we had a punch list. Stuff got taken care of. Another phase, another punch list. So does somebody go through all that and just make sure everything's been checked off, or that, you know, in the last column, there's some kind of resolved? Does that ever get done, or do we?
So not typically with each individual item. I know that Joe has done spot checks when he has been at the buildings, you know, subsequent to issuing all the punch lists. He's checked things. Joe can nod or say yes. I know he's
Yes.
checked some, you know, on a sort of on a convenience basis, but there's no intent to go through and check every single item that is on the list. Part of our professional relationship with the construction manager is expecting them to follow through on the things that we have pointed out are still pending. And I believe that all of that has happened. So when I say that the punch list has been resolved, other than these couple of things, we're really depending on the team as a whole to nod and say, yes, we've taken care of all the problems.
Okay. Great, thanks. So does anybody else have any other questions on any of the schools before we move into the whole site work punch list section of everything?
Well, the other question I have, and I'm sure Geraldine's going to talk about it, is making sure that we know that we understand the process now about that additional door and what we have to do.
Yep, I'm going to talk about that after we talk about budget,
That's what-
before we talk about additional cost requests.
Perfect.
That
Thank you, Geraldine.
Okay, so let's move on then to the site work punch list and what's going on with the few outstanding items. There was the testing done at the soccer field on the soils. I don't know if any of that's come back yet. Ken?
We did have the first results come back, and a few of the pH and organics were off a little bit. So we went back Tuesday and took more samples to try to get maybe find out if it was the sample testing, the way they acquired the samples. So we're gonna see what these next ones look like. The other ones were pretty close, so we think we're gonna be okay with this next batch.
My presumption is that when you have all of the test results, they will all be forwarded to Perkins Eastman, who will forward them to SLR for a review and an official response to whether, in fact, the materials comply with the specifications.
Yes.
So is there anything else on that site work punch list that we need to review tonight? Bueller.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
Okay, so because I don't think we have any further information on, I think the other main part of that, other than the soccer field, is the landscaping. And we're still in discussions about that.
A priorities response just came in, and we haven't had time to fully review it, but we forwarded a copy to Geraldine.
Okay. So that should be available to us and be able to be dealt with hopefully by the next meeting, and almost in time for, we are at that halfway point between winter solstice and spring equinox, so we're sliding towards spring. Yay.
So I guess my question is so we'll look at what, I don't even know what our last statement to priority was, but we'll look at their response. I guess on the other hand, at one point we talked about getting an alternative quote from, I guess, from Sunburst on remediating some of the slopes, the ruts, the appearance. I'm assuming that didn't happen, right? Roy was going to pursue that, but I don't think it ever did happen. And I think at this point we're really not able to do it well, we can today, but then it's going to snow again on Sunday. You know, I think we're not really able to do it efficiently and effectively at this point. So then are we necessarily waiting for the opportunity to look at what we ended up with on that slope and decide whether the value of it, whether there's work that needs to be remediated, and then get a quote to find out what the value of that work is? Are we still in the middle of that process, I guess is my question. Should we be pursuing something in the meantime?
Well,
Other than
I
just
believe
waiting?
I believe that Roy did have a meeting with Pete from Sunburst out at the site before the snow was there. So
Okay.
he has an idea of what remediation might need to happen. So, and I was expecting Roy to be here tonight. I didn't know he wasn't able to be here tonight. So we're going to have to follow up with him. And as far as anyone else looking at anything that needs to be completed, upgraded, remediated, whatever, if they need to look at it, obviously if we get more snow cover, it's going to be difficult to do that. So I think we're kind of in process. It's like we're waiting, but we're in process. So we can't do anything more with choosing to do something outside the contract as we had possibly talked about till we get some figures in place, I think. And, you know, we need to see what priorities response was and use that information also, I think.
All right, I just wanted to confirm that there wasn't something else that the team should be doing in the meantime. So I guess you're right. We're in the middle of a process, and we'll have a report at the next meeting.
Yeah, and so as far as site work, are those the two kind of main things? Were there other site work from the SLR report that we should be looking at?
So just to confirm my understanding, we have to get an answer from Priority before we could move forward with another alternative, correct? Right?
No.
We have to get some kind of final answer that Rizzo's been working with Priority on obtaining. But then
we should look at that.
simultaneously we were going to work on getting other quotes so that once we have that first part settled, we could make a decision to go forward or not go forward. Is that correct, or that's not correct?
Kind of. We do want to hear what whatever progress and response from Priority, and we want to have options open to ourselves too, if whatever Priority comes up with isn't going to work or isn't acceptable.
Okay, then I do follow. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of it. I don't know if there's any. I don't think there's anything more on that is outstanding.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Unless I'm missing something, and if I am, let me know.
I just wanted to make sure that's also Ken's understanding, right? Ken, that you are working with Priority so that we finish whatever can or may happen there, and then.
We submitted their response just a little while ago. So that something that we'll be reviewing. But
Okay.
yeah, that's what we have from Priority.
Okay.
Thank you.
So before we go into budget review, well, I guess maybe budget review, because the other things that I was looking at were any updates we have on the certificate of occupancy, which I think has some parts, there's some kind of site work stuff that's still being settled out. Soccer
Well,
field.
Beth is the one that was requesting the compaction tests and information on what topsoil was used at the soccer field. So I know that her approval and sign off on the certificate of occupancy is pending those test results and then the opinion of SLR. I have not. I've been in contact with Chris and Tom, obviously on this new issue that Terry was alluding to that we're going to talk about. But I still don't think that there's anything outstanding in terms of their approvals on the certificate of occupancy. I believe it's down to just land use. So,
okay.
But I also haven't seen a certificate of occupancy. I haven't seen any paperwork, or I
Right.
haven't heard anything positively. So, I think that's where we're at. I presume, Bob, that anything that Chris had asked you or your staff to check out for him happened a couple of weeks ago, correct? Yeah, so I think Chris has everything he needs until he tells us differently.
So we assume, if we want to make assumptions, that building,
Yeah.
fire, and health are ready to sign off. We're still just looking for land use / zoning to get all the information they need to finish up things for their sign off. Okay.
I know I have seen that from in email from both Tom and House. So I know both of them. I do have a record of both of them. It's really just that if Chris has anything else batting around there and then waiting for the land use approval.
Yep. Okay. Good. So budget review, let's do that. Because I don't know where you want to put in the doors or anything else any other questions we might have about possible expenditure.
Yeah, I'd like budget first, because then we'll see how much money is available for another additional expenditure request. So
Okay.
let's do, yeah, the regular tracking budgets, again, they do not change much meeting to meeting, because actually after last meeting, what we would have booked would have just been professional services invoices. But just to review, at Johnson, we are 96% complete on the entire project and 99% build out on the construction, just on the construction portion, with about $1.286 million left in contingency. And on Rockwell, similarly, total project is billed out to 97% of the approved amount, 99% so just in construction. And again, we are holding on at a minus $535,000 in contingency, in accounting for the Rockwell contingency. So again, on a combined basis, a little less here. We are the project costs are updated in the top portion here. We are going to look at, I'm going to be asking for an approval on the furniture items that we briefly discussed last meeting. That's captured here. We have, I'm still carrying the $105,800 on the recapturing of the roofing contract money on the Johnson School. That will be rolled up into the total project cost after the requisition is reviewed tonight, because they have included that amount in the total requisition cost. We are shortly after this going to talk about adding an additional door at Johnson School in an amount that I've estimated to be just over $10,000. So I'm capturing that. I adjusted the additional fee request based on what I understood to be the proposed numbers, and I think agreed upon numbers, but I'm sure that's not it. 85,000.
Yeah,
Well,
that's close. Yep.
All right. So I made an adjustment. I want closer to what we're really looking at for our under budget amount. And so I did. So currently, I believe we're tracking about $967,720 under budget, under the approved referendum amount, all told so far right now.
So question on the restore roofing contract. I did see that on the application for payment on the not as
On the
not as an
list
amount, on the application, but on the list of explaining everything, et cetera. So did that have to be a change order?
Yeah, I do need, which I do not have, but there does need to be a PCO submitted, yes.
And something signed by Mac because it results in a change to the GMP, correct?
Correct. So we would be looking for the PCO from Rizzo, and then we would have, as per the usual, Perkins Eastman create a change order that then would be the official increase in the GMP amount for Johnson. That is correct.
Okay.
Which is why you're seeing it here instead of as part of the contracted amount.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any questions, et cetera, on our tracking numbers that fluctuate and change irregularly as all the numbers do? Are there potential change orders that could be looking at to, I mean, you don't have any listed other than the possible FF&E stuff and the door, et cetera. Are there others that can or go ahead?
No, we don't have it.
You have priorities claim for additional dollars of, I believe it's about $12,000. And I believe we have the rejection we need on the one claim submitted by the acoustical sub that's been forwarded to them. We haven't gotten a response back, but everything else is closed out on the job.
Okay. So there are not any hanging in the wings that are going to jump up and.
Not that we know of.
Okay.
And
But
then
there's,
there would be the work if you choose to have additional work, landscaping.
but
work
that would
done.
not be part of, that would
No.
not be part of the GMP. That would be
Correct.
outside that, yes.
Correct.
Okay, anything more on this? Anybody have any other questions? Want to look at the FF&E,
Yeah.
et cetera? Okay.
Two things, and that's really why I wanted to look at this document first. So we continue to track just under $1 million under budget. So not to say that we consider that money available, but we have had a couple of items come up at the end of the project here that we want to propose to the building committee as additional expenditures. And I'm going to start with, let me start with the furniture because we did review that. We started to talk about it last meeting. Now, unfortunately, I woefully underestimated the increase in material costs and the escalation in furniture items. Where my last budget that I presented to you, I think it was at just about $30,000 of additional furniture requests. When I got the actual quotes in, they were much higher. They totaled $42,000. And I will say that I missed the boat primarily on this desk number. And what I had done previously was I took where I could find current list prices. I used those. Where I could not, I tried to escalate the prices that we received the last, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago with the last furniture order, and I missed the boat. So these are the same items that have been requested by the school, by the schools. I guess I can't see it there. Again, I want to remind you that it is at Rockwell, the request is for 3 2-drawer lateral files that were actually missed in the original order. So these were never ordered, but were part of the original plan. So for Rockwell, 3 file cabinets at $1,863. At Johnson, there was a request for 40 more desks and 40 more chairs, split between the sizes that are used, the 2 sizes that are used in the school. This is to accommodate increased enrollment that was unanticipated when the original furniture quantities were determined. So there we have 40 desks and chairs at about little over $20,000 here in the quote. And then we are proposing to procure 175 stools that are used at half-round kidney tables. There's one in each classroom. And they're also in other instructional spaces. Anyways, the total number of seats that we need at all of those tables is 175. The original plan was to reuse existing stools, but that turned out not to be adequate. A lot of them were lost in the move or, disappeared one other places. And at this point, we just think it would be better to purchase all new stools for Johnson's school. So that totals an additional request. As I said, it was originally almost 29.5. Now with the actual quotes, we see that the cost is $42,174.12. And I have also included copies here of the actual quotes. Number of the items are from Red Thread. You see their total here at $22,469. And also the stools from Robert H. Lord at $19,700. So the accounting is here, and the request would be for the $42,174. And with your authorization, we'll have finance issue purchase orders for these items.
And so these amounts the costs are like final, and if we approve the amount, or it's not going to go up.
No, that is exactly it. All of these items are available on state contracts, so the costs are fairly fixed, and we do have official quotes from both vendors, and these are the numbers that I included in that contingency use cash flow analysis that we just reviewed. So the $967,000 under budget already accommodates this pricing.
Okay. So, and this would be coming out of, obviously not anything to do with the GMP or anything like that. It would be coming out of the soft costs through FF&E, but we still need to make a motion and approve the amount. Is that
Yeah.
what we're looking for? Okay.
So
So Dave Olson makes a motion that we approve the amount of $42,174.12 for additional furniture needed for both Rockwell and Johnson School. Well, is it the 42? Yes, it is. Okay.
42 is
For both, for Rockwell and Johnson School. For Rockwell, for lateral file cabinets that were not ordered as part of the original FF&E order. And for Johnson, and additional desks, chairs, and stools needed to accommodate unexpected increased enrollment.
I'll second.
John Menti seconds that. You got it all, Kath? She'll listen to the recording and make sure whatever I said. Is any other questions, comments, et cetera, on this? Any other?
Nancy, I would like to add, so back when we were doing the projects and we had the enrollment study done, just to let you know, we are district-wide. As of this October 1, we have 243 more students in the district than we estimated when we did those enrollment studies before the project. So we do have a lot more students in district.
And the
What was that
studies,
number again, Terry? I'm sorry, what was that number again, Terry? To what?
243 district-wide.
Yeah.
and the study did projections.
Yes,
So this
I'm
is more than
comparing
the
it to the projection. Yes, yes.
So this actual number is way more than the projections that were done.
Yes, and a part of that is in Johnson. So
Probably the biggest part.
a good chunk. Yeah, a good chunk.
Okay, any other questions, comments, et cetera, on this part? Take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody that's opposed? So I don't have to scroll through all the pictures. So that carries, and we can get going with finance issuing purchase orders. And Geraldine, you had checked about any possible supply chain issues, and these might not be ready to get to us before the end of the school year, but we may get them definitely for the start of the new school year.
Yeah, so it turns out that the stools are available immediately. So as soon as I got this, as soon as I got this approval, I'm going to tell them tomorrow morning the purchase order is coming. They are going to purchase, they're going to process the purchase, the order before getting the purchase order. So we're going to start with that one. I do anticipate that the other pieces may not arrive until school is out in the summer, but we're going to schedule it with the custodians to accept the deliveries whenever they're available.
Okay, great. And then there's another part that we need to look at of something that came up recently.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a brief explanation, and Terry and or Bob can jump in and supplement my explanation. So we're looking at partial floor plan Johnson School. To orient you, the front entrance vestibule is here. To the left is the gym, cafeteria, music room wing. To the right, as you go down this hallway, you get to the new addition here, the 5th grade wing. And what I have, what's colored in yellow here ends up being, well, let me back up. When the public uses this school after hours, they shut these doors, but they cannot be locked because the capacity of the gym and these public rooms on this side of the building are such that in an emergency, they need to have this exiting route through this door into the main lobby and out the front door available to them. It's a code requirement. However, when they leave these doors open in the evenings when the public are using the public side of the building, all of this area is available to the public to wander around, because the doors that lock are the door to this classroom wing is lockable, the door to the admin here is lockable, and the door at the far end of this corridor into the 5th grade wing is lockable, but all of this is available for wanderers. And that had become a problem to have the public in so much of the school. The elevator is here and accessible. The elevator currently does not have a lock on it. And there are restrooms in this area that are not lockable. So the wandering problem is a problem. So Terry and Bob and I and Ryan had custodian met on site about a week ago to strategize what could we do to contain more people and still comply with the code in terms of emergency exiting. What we came up with, along with Joe Collada from Perkins Eastman, is to add a door. Here again, here we are, the main lobby. You'll see the stair here, the main lobby. This is the door into the cafeteria and the gym and the public areas. We are able to add a door here at this part of the corridor. That would be where the doors would be held open all during school day. So it's just free passage during the school day. But after hours, they would be able to close these doors and they would be lockable from the lobby side. So anybody coming out of the public area at the gym and the cafeterias would only have access to the front lobby or, the door going out. All of the rest of that, all of the rest of this space here from the door would be about here. All the rest of the space now would be private and under the control of the custodians who are cleaning in the building.
Do we know if those doors, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we know if those doors would have to be released in a fire alarm?
They would. So they would be on hold opens as all of these corridor doors, this door, this corridor, this corridor door, this corridor door, are all on hold opens during the day that are tied both to the panic button system in case of a security emergency, and they're tied to the fire alarm system in case of a fire emergency. But all of these doors, as will be this new door, are always open in the direction that somebody would want to travel to leave the building. So we would be locking off the rest of the building, but still, if anybody was caught in here, custodians, teachers after hours, they could still get out. And yes, during the day, the doors would be open for free passage.
Is the
Thank
doors to the stairway, is that a locked door too?
So that's part B. So currently this door does not lock in this direction into the stairwell. The options were to replace this hardware to provide a lockable set, or to lock the set that's up on the second floor. But when we suggested that, Terry said, no, we don't want people wandering into the stairwell, even if they can't get into the rest of the school. So I think the recommended solution will be to replace this hardware as well. Now, in talking with Joe today, we've determined that the hardware probably can't just be swapped out. We need different hardware that will then require us probably to replace these doors, because there will have been the holes in the wrong place, or, fastening in the wrong place. So my original estimate of, 10 to 12,000 may go up a little bit, but that, yes, the hardware and our doors need to be replaced here, and then the doors need to be added. Doors need to be added here.
Geraldine, can I comment?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, just keep in mind, we have some extra doors as part of the attic stock.
Yes, and it's a good thing. Yes, because what I probably would do is price this as all new, and then if you have doors that are available, then we'll work down that price there. But I want to find out what it really costs to build this. It's essentially, we're building a small partition. It's got to go up to the ceiling, door frame, double doors, hardware, tie it to the security system, provide the power at the door, and then swap out the hardware and doors at the stairwell door. And that's what we're looking for. So I don't have a set cost to propose to you tonight. I just want to know that if we're in the $10,000 to $20,000 arena, should we pursue this in terms of getting hard costs and determining how we're going to actually procure and install the doors and the hardware. So we're pretty much just looking for a direction from the building committee. Will you entertain this work at the request of the district?
I have a comment to make here. I agree and understand the whole concept and the reason behind this, but what's a little disturbing to me, we are at the 11 and a half hours into the project, and now all of a sudden we need another $20,000, possibly a $20,000 addition or placement. And I understand why, but it's really disheartening that this should have been thought about a long time ago. And then the other question is, are we going to get another surprise next month at Rockwell School for something like this? I mean, we're supposed to be having this project coming to an end like now, and now we want to add another $20,000 for the doors. And I do understand it and I support it, but I'm a little upset that at this late part of the game, we're doing this. It's a little disheartening to me. That's all I have to say.
Hey, John, it was always our understanding that the vestibule and that area was going to be a lockable situation when the general public uses. Where it got lost in the interpretation is another story, but it's always been spoken about that this should have been a lockdown area.
And I agree, Bob, but like you said, it was always talked about, but it never fell through. It fell through the cracks. And why? This is another added cost. And that,
John, I think I could answer that a little bit. Is if I recall back during programming, the media center was also supposed to be used for after hours, which is why the doors were positioned where they were to lock off the classroom portions of the building. So if the media center, the cafeteria, and gym are all being used for after hours, there was a thought that this passageway was going to be communicated between those three spaces. I think that's why this door was never put in this position, because it wouldn't have made sense programmatically.
There's another set of doors down there by the media center that will block off that corridor.
It still provides access to all these other, I know that the doors in the hallway to the secretary's office, the conference room, et cetera, that we see on the other plan that Geraldine showed. while those doors to those individual spaces or offices, like, if access to the media center was supposed to be, granted, so to speak, you still have all these other spaces that in that yellow hallway still provides access to a lot of other places, even though the doors are locked, that's still people wandering in places that we don't want. And I did ask that question too, about why wouldn't this have come up during code review? And it wouldn't have, because we weren't looking at, I think in the code review part, blocking off or using one section of the school during after hours and having it open to the public, and being able to close off another section of the school, making it or less accessible, and then that way less problematic for the Board of Ed, for the school staff, et cetera. It is annoying that we have to think about putting something in at this point. However, I think it's one of those things that we didn't know how it was going to work until it didn't work.
Yeah, it was always viewed that this basically the yellow area was viewed as the lobby, as one continuous space and not two separate spaces.
Mhm.
So, and that's how it was designed.
The doors, I'm pointing at my screen like everybody can see that.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
The doors that are coming out of the wing where the cafeteria and gym are. So right now they can be locked, correct? Yes, right there. They can be locked now.
No.
They cannot be locked from the gym and cafeteria out into the lobby. And that's, I'll admit, that's where I'm confused. I was confused.
So, but
Because
why can't they be
I
locked?
always understood
They're
that we would be
required for, so those doors were put in place kind of late in the game as a part of the security measures. So during a lockdown, those doors would release and shut off that portion of the building visually. It's all the doors in the yellow area that would shut during a fire alarm or a lockdown or designed for a visual deterrent to an intruder. It's just another measure to slow people down if they get into the building.
Right.
But I also, but I think that
I
if,
still don't understand that going into that gym area, why can't, if we can lock it 25 feet away, what is it because it's not enough egress space from that area? If all
Yes.
this space is
Yes.
being used?
Yes.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. The building is fully sprinkled. Has this gone through the fire marshal's office for clarification? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
You would think it's part of the code review.
Well,
Which
that's
part?
exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
This actually-
those you're required, because the gym and cafeteria are assembly spaces. They are required to egress a large portion of the occupants through the main entry.
Okay.
So that's why that door is also required to be there. Or, well, that the door is there for security reasons in a lockdown situation. If it wasn't for that, that door could have been eliminated entirely, and it just would have been part of the hallway into the lobby.
And Bob, you think you may have doors that could possibly be used?
Yes,
And
I
I'm saying
did.
possibly.
Yeah, they're raw doors with nothing cut into them yet. It was part of attic stock.
And
But
our door hardware rep also thought that it's possible that with the right contractor, they might be able to retrofit the doors in the field, but that would be something that would be discussed with the contractor if they would be able to do that.
so, but Bob, you have doors. Do you also have door bucks and all the other pieces?
Well,
of
I don't
bucks
have-
you need?
I don't believe I have all of the hardware, but I could probably definitely augment some of it.
Okay, so we'll have to see once all the total
Yeah.
costs get put together, and what it's going to cost to get the security there and the electricity and everything else as you were. Do we have to change sprinkler heads?
No, and that's,
No.
That's
Yeah.
good.
that's why it's located where it is and not, closer to the end. We're missing light fixtures, we're missing sprinkler heads. It's a very fortuitous placement there to minimize the work that needs to be done in the ceiling.
Again, understand and support it, and I think really we should come back to the committee when we can get a hard price, and if those doors can be used again, so be it. If they can't, well, so be that. But I think we need to make sure we have everything, because we're getting to the point, and we're going to start getting scrutinized on our expenditures. I know we're under budget, which is great, and it'd be nice to stay there. So,
Oh, yeah.
But I think we
John?
also, go ahead, Bob.
Hey, John, to answer your second part of your comment, for Rockwell will not have the level of outside public coming in like Johnson does. Rockwell doesn't host any of those large activities after hours.
So the large gatherings would be whatever happens during school. And that's already been figured into the way doors work, et cetera,
Right.
egress, all that.
Mhm.
But I do think that we still need to give some sort of indication that we're supporting this to go ahead as far as continuing planning and getting figures together, et cetera. My question is, how does the work get done? Is this something that going to become a change order and go through Rizzo?
So can I
How
ask
does
you,
this-
a stupid question? Does this something that has to be doors, or can it be like a safety gate instead that would probably be a hell of a lot cheaper to put up? I know it's not pretty, I get it, but.
Yeah, do they have to be like a fire closed?
Yeah,
thing?
the
Do we
fire
know?
rated kind of thing.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
in the world of fire science, you can't panic out through a gate
Okay,
unless it's a specially designed gate. And by the time you're done designing that gate, you just paid for your doors.
okay. That's why I asked. Thanks, Bob.
So again, in putting costs together, I'm sure we need to take into consideration how this is going to be completed, who's going to do the work, et cetera. So do we need to give some sort of direction on that? Do we have a plan of that, or is that still being looked into?
Is the,
Well, obviously,
is
the
the
choice
number
is
here
up.
a budget number? Is that a budget number or is that?
it's a budget number that I threw together, so I really do need to pursue real costs. And yes, the two options are make it part of the larger construction project and ask Rizzo for assistance in implementing the work and a change order, or do it outside of the original construction project and target other vendors, which I suspect would be more cost effective, and that I would want to work with Bob on to identify the correct vendors to deal with the hardware and then the building of the partition with the door in it.
So I agree with the second plan. But I'll only agree to put together the cost, the hard cost and proposal form before I'll vote on anything to proceed with it. I mean, I think it's a great idea, but to John Mente's point, we've buzzed through a lot of money on trying to do the right thing. And I think without having a hard cost of exactly how much it's going to cost, I'm not in favor of voting tonight to move forward with it. We want to come back with a hard number, that you got a number from the electrician, you got a number for the hardware, you got a number for the guy that installed. I'm good with that. But John's right. We've approved a lot of money as a board on stuff that we didn't plan for on the project. And somewhere we have to stop. Or not stop, but we got to close the purse a little bit,
If we're
I agree.
working with Rizzo to get their whole part closed out, we don't want to add more into that.
Well, yeah,
So-
that's why I'm saying Plan B, because I think the idea is excellent. So now the closeout process continue, and the money will just come out of here. It's not reimbursable. It wasn't part of the project. It's a convenience. So it's not reimbursable by the state. Let the project get closed out and continue on, and we'll treat this as a sidebar after, but John's right. We approved a lot of stuff here. We really did. When you go back on the past couple of months, you know, we're gonna be the people, the board, us, that approved it. I would like to see a hard number with everything that's needed.
So does that give us, Geraldine and Joe Colada, I guess, because Joe's done some, had his
Yeah.
team do some of the design work, does that give you, you can move forward and continue to put things together as far as what we need to do and get together some costs?
Yeah,
Perkins Eastman throw in their costs. They're gonna do it as a favor for us.
What's that, John?
Perkins Eastman is gonna do it as a favor for us.
Now appearing nightly at Chuckles is John Perna.
Yes,
Right
so
reveal.
our plan will be now with your, with your assent to, to go out and get actual hard numbers, hard quotes, and a real proposal for how we're going to implement it. I just wanted to present it as at the conceptual level to make sure that this was something we should be pursuing on your behalf. So.
And it is something that once that's in place, it's gonna get the blessing of fire marshal, building inspector. Everybody's good with.
I ran the plans by both Tom and Chris. Neither one of them had an issue with the way we're configuring the hardware and adding the door where we're adding it. So in terms of code compliance, they're on board. This initially came up because the school was locking the door, and I think, and Tom Galliford said, no, you can't lock that door between the lobby and the public wing. And that's really where some of this sprung from, is how can we better control public access and still comply with the code.
Carolyn, I'd be willing to help you with the vendors.
Good, because I want to discuss with you how we should approach, who we should approach, and how we should approach doing the work. So I'll connect.
So
Have you guys ever used K-Man glass?
Yeah, and mobile lock.
So in this situation, though, as it exists, how is it being handled for public access now? You can't just like throw a few tables in the way and say, don't go this way, or.
No, well, right now the custodians we heightened their awareness to anybody walking in the hallways after hours. And we've, as Terry stated, we've already had situations where the people have been walking. We've had kids wanted to show their parents where their classrooms are, at 8 o'clock at night. We're like, whoa, the other end of the building. So, we've had a lot of that.
Okay.
They've managed to find their way into a lot of the building. And I'm gonna say, you guys know where my office is. I mean, a lot of times I've been in on a Sunday, and the next thing I know, there's a kid bouncing a basketball down the middle of the floor up here, out in the hallway. Because once you have an elevator that can give you access to the whole building, and once you have some of these, it's amazing. And we struggle in several of our buildings. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any issues with access where we don't want people wandering unattended and unsupervised.
And I think it's kind of cool that kids want to show their parents their classroom, et cetera, but we also don't want to have situations where people can get in, cause problems, et cetera. We don't want to wait until that happens.
See, after hours, there's cords stretched across the hallway. There's articles out on the floor. There's all the cleaning process is going on. So
right,
floors.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait till there is to take care of it.
Right.
It's good that you found it ahead of time. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get some, hopefully, maybe the next meeting, some good figures to work with. Any other comments or questions on this part? moving on to uh, professional services, additional service requests. My understanding is that right now, I don't have figures to give, but there were letters being drafted by the attorneys of letters of agreement between town and Perkins Eastman and the town and Rizzo on the different amounts. And that's the last I heard. And I haven't heard anything more specific than that. I'm thinking those letters went out, but I don't really know. I haven't gotten an update any further than that. So that process is hopefully coming to a close very soon. That's that. And then invoices, I guess, unless anybody else has any other questions or et cetera on the project. We'll do, the only two that we have tonight are the applications for payment from Rizzo. So we have one for Johnson, one for Rockwell. So I will make a motion that we approve the application for payment number 34 for Johnson in the amount of $85,571.23.
Second it.
Second from, who was that, Bob? Thank you, Bob.
Bob.
Any discussion? Obviously, the next, all the pages that are up on the shared drive and that Geraldine shared with us have all the backup documents and amounts still to be balanced to finish, et cetera. Ken dropped off the signed stamped copies today, so they're good to go. So can we vote on this? All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Done with that one. And then I'll make a motion that we approve application for payment number 34 for Rockwell School in the amount of $60,568.27.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Again, all of the backup documentation is there, et cetera. Signed stamp copies at the, was dropped at the Municipal Center. We're good to go with that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, so is there anything else that anybody has on school projects that they need to bring up, they need to ask questions about, that we need to consider or that needs to be worked on by anybody before the next meeting?
I do.
John, yeah, go ahead,
What was
John.
the outcome of the warranty for the solar?
Oh, yes, we brought that up last meeting. Did we
Yeah.
find out what was
So
going on with that? But
That's very important because whatever that warranty is on the brand new roof, we should have that in hand. Terry, do you have it?
I
Do you
don't
the
have it.
warranty for the solar panels?
No, I do not have it.
I think it's not something that, it's obviously not anything that Rizzo would have. It would be something that the town
No,
would
it's
be,
not Rizzo. It has nothing to do
Right.
with Rizzo, but
right,
he has charge on the Board of Ed to get it. They, we put the project together and then somebody came behind us and put solar panels on the roof and we don't have a warranty.
Well, the project, that whole solar project comes under the Energy Commission in town. So it would be the, maybe town finance and the energy group that would have whatever they have as warranties.
because the warranty was in place before the project started through, the subcontractors Rizzo hired, et cetera, they were in place. So that part Rizzo's done with, of the warranties. And then when the solar people started, there's paperwork they had to fill out, et cetera, to be able to put the warranties back in place. So somebody needs to know about, I think that's something that, you're going to want to have on file somewhere, I'm thinking, Bob,
Right.
to make sure that there's any issues, et cetera. So
Right.
we might,
My understanding is that John's Manville was going to send the agreement that the roof was repaired and no damage to the town of Bethel. But after that, I have no knowledge of if it actually happened or not, or what department that was going to. My assumption would be the finance. But I could certainly ask that question.
I
But we
can
can
ask you.
find out between town finance and Bill Craddy's group where all of that is.
And perhaps even the solar people, so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
who's gonna check into, I can send an email if that would help, I don't know.
You know, I certainly,
Okay.
can check. I mean, we all can take a part of that. I mean,
So how about between Bob and Terry, they send an email to Bill Craddy, he headed up that committee, right?
that's
Yeah,
correct.
because honestly, John, it was
CC
not a Board of Ed project. It was not under
I
the,
understand, I
Yeah.
understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that, but it's a lot of equipment on a brand new roof. on a
I,
school
I,
just finished.
I agree.
I understand. But if you, between you and Bob, could send Bill Craddy an email and CC Nancy
Yeah.
and maybe somebody else on the committee so that we get that in hand, because like
Yep.
Nancy said, it's not Rizzo's job.
Right.
But I'm eager to see that in writing on a brand new roof.
And we'll ask the first selectman too, because all of those committees come under him. So,
Yeah, so I would, CC Matt, CC,
yeah,
maybe even Brad in finance, because
Yes.
maybe finance received something and you didn't know about it.
Right.
Because I think you would
We-
want to have a copy of it on file.
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, because we were not in the loop on any of that. So I
Right.
will follow up with the town side.
Keep in
Because I
mind, there's
think,
3 buildings, the track house as well.
right. And I think, Bob, you would want to know
Yeah,
what the warranty process would be if there was an
Yep.
issue.
Yep.
And you would
Agreed.
want to know what to go through, how to go through that. Yeah, good.
Agreed.
I'm glad you brought that up again, John. You had asked about it once before, and we need to keep on top of it. Anything for anybody else, from anybody else? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we still have police station stuff to discuss. School folks, I think we're done with all of you guys, unless you have anything you need to ask us about or bring up.
No,
Good.
thank you for everything.
good night.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
All set.
Thank you, thank you.
Good night.
Night all.
Good night. Thanks, Ken.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks. Well, Geraldine, you're going to stick around a little.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So I would like to first start, if, I don't know if maybe we put it in the minutes, Kath, with the, so the change order was signed by Matt and I filed it. I have a copy of it if it needs to go anywhere. And then I signed, and Kathy brought up to finance the application for payment, which I let Downs know is in process of being paid. And that final, both the application for payment and the change order both show that credit of from the second GMP that we had put together, a credit to the town of 28,000 plus or minus. So that change order, which was signed by Matt, 125 is really the only change order that needed to be approved by us and signed. They're what they call change order proposals, or COPs. 121, 122, 123, 124 were specifically spelled out in that whole packet of information, which Ryan went through, was also sent to everyone. Basically, mostly for our information, those are the amounts that costs that came out of construction contingency, still resulting in a credit, that were used to do the additional flashing and roofing, downspouts, paint the outside of the firing range, caulk the front, caulk the upper around where the flashing went in, et cetera. So those didn't need to be approved or signed by Matt because they came out of construction contingency. They didn't need to have our approval or anybody's signature. So I just wanted to put that in there to clear that up. So on Thursday, or maybe it was Friday morning. So last week we had pretty heavy rain Thursday all day and downpours on Friday morning before we ended up getting the freezy ice stuff. So I emailed Chief Pugner, Lieutenant Durkin, and Lieutenant Libertini, and said and actually Lieutenant Burns, and said, between all of you, could somebody wander down to the firing range and see what's going on? With all this rain, it's a good test. And eventually I got an email back from Durkin saying, I'll go check it out. And then I didn't hear anything more. So I'm assuming if it was bad news, we can hopefully stick with the no news is good news stuff. If it was bad news, I would have received some pictures, videos, emails, etc. And Geraldine, I don't know if you've been more recently in the past couple of days in touch with anybody at the police department, if they've said anything about water leakage. No.
I've only talked with the chief, and he didn't mention anything. In fact, he was on the call, and then he had to drop. He was in the meeting here tonight, but then he dropped off. So
yeah, I saw that he was on his phone here, and I thought he was going to stick around, but
yeah, he told me he was waiting. He was going to be waiting in his car for his son to come out of basketball practice. So apparently he couldn't wait. I believe.
Yeah, well, if he jumps back on, great, we'll get him in. But so on the firing range, so that the police station, the whole project, I think we're done, other than the firing range. So I don't know if you have any update for us, Geraldine, right now.
I do. I have a couple of updates. So I actually put together a report. This all kind of transpired this week. So I have to figure out a way to, in addition to emailing you reports and updates, perhaps we'll have the opportunity to have another website or Google Share Drive or something where we can deposit documents. But I will circulate this report after the fact. But I will bring you up to date. I had a conversation this morning with the representative from Action Target. So as we've discussed in the past, the police department did many months ago started working with Action Target on selecting all the components for the firing range equipment, and also talking about the installation of a dedicated HVAC system just for the firing range. They have had multiple quotes from Action Target. I think the people at Action Target are probably thrilled to find out that it's actually going to go ahead. But the last updated quote they had from them is from January, and so the police department has decided on which alternatives and components they would like in the system. We have a firm price from Action Target. It is significantly higher than it has been. It has obviously grown over the months and the years. Part of this is obviously supply chain, inflation, maybe improvements in their own technology. But right now we're looking at a total price of $776,000, $776,345 for totally outfitting the firing range and providing the HVAC system, all design, procurement, delivery, and installation out the door. The firing range will be fit out. Now, my conversation with the representative from Action Target this morning was to clarify what is not in their package of what's not within their scope of responsibility. So there are standard items that they do not do that the owner needs to supply, and that is, electrical power to their equipment, any electrical power to any, obviously, outlets and boxes within the space, low voltage power to their control system. If the roof needs any sort of structural reinforcement or the addition of any unistrut below the roof level, that would be on the owner. We need to demolish, we need to create an opening in one of the existing walls and then rebuild it in order for them to load in the equipment. But that, I know that that was planned for. So there is an area that can be broken through and then rebuilt. We are responsible for the lighting within the firing range and any control area. We are also responsible to install a finished ceiling in the control area or behind the firing line. And then obviously, if this all rises to the level of needing to utilize or bid out to a general contractor, we'll need the sort of the boilerplate documents in order to create a drawing set that can be properly bid. So in light of all that, we do know that we are going to need a design professional. We need to hire an architect to put this documentation together. The first step obviously would be to confirm what we have in the existing space. I know in going through the drawings from the original build, a lot of this was included in the base drawings, or not in the base drawings, but as the alternate to build out the firing range. I'm just not clear yet how much of it actually was built as part of the original project and how much of this still needs to be done as part of the outfitting of the firing range. So we need to determine that level of improvement and have the architect verify some parts of the existing building, for instance, the structural capacity of the roof. You know, in case anything has changed between what they assumed 2-3 years ago when they designed it and what the equipment that we're actually procuring today requires. We need to just verify the coordination aspects of those two parties. So the architect and the contractor, and then make sure everything that isn't covered in the action target scope is actually covered. So we know we need an architect to be engaged. I also spoke with Brad Hearing in the comptroller's office to confirm that any contract or procurement under $50,000 does not need a public bid. We could target the entity that we wanted to request a proposal or a quote from and enter into a contract. If the value of the work is more than $50,000, like the action target quote, the Board of Selectmen would have to issue a bid waiver in order to sole source those services. So the plan currently would be to request a bid waiver for the action target contract. And the background there, in case somebody's not familiar, is there are a limited number of vendors that provide this type of firing range equipment. The police department has vetted the two larger vendors, determined that Action Target will provide equipment that's closer to their needs. And that's the reason why over the last couple of years, they have pursued the project through Action Target. But because of the value of the contract, obviously, we're going to need a bid waiver to pursue that procurement. So we'll, in my recommendation, and I think in order to cover the missing scope from the Action Target contract, we do need an architect. We're eventually going to need a contractor of some kind to implement that work. And so the question to the building committee will be how to procure those services, whether to go back to the original architect or to pursue alternative architects to do this work. So that's pretty much the choice. My recommendation would be to go back to Jakunski Humes. They already own the documents. They know what it was specified and what was supposed to be built out in the space. They're probably the most efficient and most knowledgeable professional to continue on the project. And so what I'm sort of requesting tonight, again, is your consent, your authorization to pursue engaging Jakunski Humes by requesting that they provide a proposal for services to continue on with the project, to confirm what we have there as existing conditions, to design and specify the pieces that are missing, and then to oversee, to do construction administration once we have a contractor on board. Again, much like the last request on the school, I'd like to bring you a firm proposal, price proposal for your approval at the next meeting, if that's something you'd like to
So is
pursue. Otherwise,
Is that something
Right.
that you're seeing, that's like kind of a next step of getting, because we
Yeah.
have both the, not just the quote from Action Target, but actual drawings, so to speak, of where equipment is going to be and
so we do, I have some conceptual drawings from them. They just came over this afternoon. Action Target is actually going to have a representative in the area who will come on site on February 23rd, take a look at the space that we, take a look at the firing range structure, meet with me, meet with the representatives from the police department. If we actually have an architect semi-engaged, or, at that point, we would have them show up as well, just to sort of, start the process, kick it off, see what we've got, confirm all the requirements of the project. So yes, I think the first step is to engage an architect. And then, as I said, at some point, we will need to engage a contractor. That's not as critical time-wise right now, but we would have to have the same discussion about how to pursue a contractor for the work. But their work comes quite a bit in the future. Let me, while we're
because before you
talking,
continue, I was going to ask a question about,
yeah, sure.
so because the reason I was asking about Action Target having drawings about what goes where is that the architect's going to need to know, and again, I'm pointing at my screen like everybody can see it, but that whole section second section where you have components, not the drawings, but the components of what the first thing you had up, that first, or your report there that you had up, what you just had up. Yeah. So in looking at what an architect would need to do, they would need to know where they're going to be drawing, where electrical boxes are going to be, et cetera, and lighting controls and things like that. Where's the lighting going to be? They kind of need to know where all the Action Target stuff is going to be, so they run their lines to the correct place. That's kind of what I was asking, that they would need to know that first, that Action Target would need to say, here's where we're putting all this specific equipment. This is hanging from the roof. This is going to be on a wall over here. This is going to be standing over there. So then power lines could be run, boxes, et cetera, to the appropriate places.
Yeah, we need to have,
Correct.
we need to have tight coordination on this one.
Yeah.
So
And just sorry to interrupt, but by the way, Bob Durkin said it was dry, it was fine.
Oh, thank you.
excellent.
Thanks for checking.
So- Yeah,
Actually,
so Action
two
Target,
questions. Can we, when you say you want to use Jacumsey Humes, can we at least ask two other architects for a proposal along with his?
we can. So
My second
that,
question. My second question is, in here, I don't see anything that says prevailing wage. Does it have to be prevailing wage? Because I thought over 100,000, everything I do, over 100,000 has to be prevailing wage.
Right.
So these guys are gonna come from, I think Action Target is in Georgia, or aren't they?
they're in Utah. Yeah,
They're in Utah?
yeah.
So we have to ask them. I don't see how we could do this without it being prevailing wage itself. But that would be somebody, maybe you could ask somebody in what their procurement policy is. I understand the 50,000 value that goes, kind of town to town, city to city. But prevailing wage is the state. I don't think we have it.
And that could change your numbers drastically.
Has that been discussed at all, Geraldine? Do you know with any of the?
Yeah, it has not come up specifically, and I'd have to maybe go through their quote a little bit more and ask that question of the rest. Yeah, but it's certainly a requirement that we would have to pursue and confirm that they are able to comply with.
Because would they send a team of people from Utah here to put the stuff in, or would they hire local people?
Yeah.
to-
I don't know, and it's interesting, that's something that Brad had raised as well, is maybe in terms of if they do hire a local crew for their own installation, why don't we piggyback that for the other construction work that needs to go on? So that stuff is all still kind of in the mix on how it's going to be implemented. But that's definitely on my list of additional questions to ask the Action Target folks. How do they actually implement, how do they design and install? Maybe they do send a crew, I have no idea.
So going back to John's first question of asking proposals from other architect teams, John, do you have any recommendations that you want to put forward for us to check into as far as asking for other quotes?
I would say whoever Gerald is comfortable working with, I just don't think we should just get one from Brian personally. I think it's, we got the heavy, or what I call the heavy lift is done, the shell is built. This is not a big job for an architect,
No.
half the work is done already. I don't see it being difficult for an architect to give us a price not to exceed. And that's what I would want to see on anybody's
Oh, yeah.
proposal, not to exceed, yeah.
We can definitely do that. I mean, we obviously have access to the existing drawings. They already have a lot of the infrastructure kind of noted on the drawings. So even if it changes direction, I know, one thing is that the existing plan had an enclosed control booth. And I know that the folks at the police department are now thinking that maybe they don't need an enclosure there because it's all, on a screen, on kind of a, screen control. So there might be some little revisions that need to happen to the drawings, but yes, they have the work is limited in terms of the architect's work. I think probably the bulk of it is in monitoring the construction itself rather than in producing new drawings. But I do know Tecton Architects and Silver Petrocelli both have police department experience, have done the design work for police departments that my office has managed the construction of. So yeah, I can definitely come up with at least two more. I think there's probably more looking into other recent projects in Connecticut. So
I think Tecton
we'll
put
put together.
a bit. Yeah, I think Tecton put a bit in
They did.
originally on the project.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the same thing with a general contractor. I have no objections with Downs. They have a lot of the information, but I wouldn't want it to be just Downs. I at least two other bids for the same thing. Like I said, the majority of the work is done.
Sure.
Steven's iPhone is raising their hand.
Oh, Steven's back. Hi, Steve. Come on in.
Hey, I'm just overhearing this, and I think it'd be a huge mistake to go with anybody else but Brian Humes at this point. He knows the building inside and out. He's already half designed or 3/4 designed completing the range. I know it's, it would to just drag this process out any longer, waiting to get prices from other architects when we know that we want to use him to begin with. I think is crazy. I mean, we've already, it's going on, 3 years now that we've been waiting to complete this project. And I know it's not your guys' fault. It's just frustrating, and to drag it out another month or two, waiting get a couple numbers from other architects when we're going to end up going with Brian anyway. I don't want to see this project delayed any longer for minor things like this.
Well, we don't have a quote from Brian to begin with, so we're going to need a quote from him. We're going to need, I think as a building committee, we're all looking at the fact that we have to look at numbers and sort of be answerable, so to speak, to the public when we look at costs and things like that.
But in this scenario, I don't think you do, because I think it's a preferred vendor type situation where he's already been the one that's been working on this project. So now you're going to bring in people that have no idea what's going on, trying to pick up his pieces where he left off, where he might have pieces of plans that we never got in his office that might incorporate some of this stuff already. Just a lot of things to consider. And, if you have to do it, you have to do it. I just don't want to see this dragged out another month before we decide something again. So in other words, next meeting, we're gonna talk about who's gonna be bid, and then the next month, we're gonna get the numbers, and the next thing you know, we're 4 or 5 months down the road again. Let's please just move forward, please.
Well, we are moving forward. We're continuing to move forward. And part of moving forward is getting a quote from anybody, Brian Humes, Tecton, anybody. We have to get quotes. We can't say to Brian or anyone else, have at it. We've got to have a figure in place. We have to have an agreement in place.
But Nancy, my point is we could have done this months ago, and now we're sitting here 3 months later saying that now we have to do this now. I mean, let's move it forward, please.
We are moving it forward, Steve, and we couldn't have done it 3 months ago. We were still in the process of finishing the exterior, making sure everything was done with that, and getting in place, our owner's representative, so that we have somebody overseeing the whole project per the request of the Board of Selectmen. Going along with that, we have to do that, and we're continuing to move forward. Everything that Geraldine has put together here that she's going through, we're going to continue to go through it, and looking at the step-by-step process that we have to do. We still have to, we as a building committee, have to go through the town procurement procedures and go along with, we were just having a discussion on whether the project has to be done on prevailing wage. If it does, then that's got to be taken into consideration, put out there. These are all things that we have to find out, and things that are part of our moving forward.
Nancy, can I add something?
Okay. Go ahead, John.
I'm glad we're moving forward, and it's long overdue, but I would make a suggestion why Chief Pugner is here on the line with us, that we need to have representation from the police department on the committee. And this time, I want somebody from the police commission on this committee. Because when we did the building and things went to hell in a handbasket, the police commission, they said not a single freaking word. And I'm not going to sit through that again. We need to have somebody from the police commission who's going to be on this committee, who's going to be in the know. Because if something goes wrong, boy, everybody will point our finger at this building committee again.
Well, but John, that's something that
Nancy,
the board.
No, we need to have a member of the police commission on it. I'm sorry.
John, that's up to the Board of Selectmen to appoint somebody.
And I will talk to Matt about it then. Because
Okay.
I'm
I'm fine. I've asked, I did ask Chief Pugner, and I think others have too. And Steve, I don't know if you're going to have somebody that's going to be appointed to be, because that person would be a voting member. They would be at meetings. They would be making sure we're moving in the right direction, et cetera. And I don't know
exactly.
if that's something, Steve, I don't know if that's something that you've put forward to the Board of Selectmen to say, you or Lieutenant Durkin. I know Libertini can't because he's not a resident of Bethel. I think you have to be a resident of Bethel, but having someone who's part of, when we do the meetings, they're here, they're part of the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably recommend Lieutenant Durkin again, because he lives in town and obviously was involved the whole time to begin with, so.
Okay,
that would make.
So I would say, Steve, you make that recommendation to Matt. I'll make that recommendation to Matt, so that we have somebody who's part of it. And we're taking, Steve, we're taking into consideration all your comments about Jakunski Humes. I agree with what you're saying about they're on board. They're here. They've got all the information. But we do have to do some comparisons.
Can I ask a question to Geraldine? I'm not part of this board, so tell me if I shouldn't be speaking freely like this.
No, bring. We need somebody, so you're it for now.
Okay. How long would it take to reach out to these other architects and then get prices from them? I know it's not going to be a week.
No, and I agree with the chief that it is going to extend the timeline of the project. I'm going to need to put together a narrative that describes the scope that we need, that we think we need, that we want them to provide a fee for, extract some drawings out of the set, you have to make sure that you're giving each person you're asking for a price the same information so that they all are clear on what we're asking them to do and they can give us a fee that we can compare apples to apples. So I'm going to need, a week to put that together. It's easy to just I would send out an email to, the three firms, probably have a phone conversation with each one of them. They're going to need a week or so to put together a fee. And I would caution you, though, that as soon as the other firms realize that there already was an architect involved that we're already talking to, who will most likely be the most cost-efficient alternative, either their price is going to go up or they're just not going to bid. I've got multiple RFPs out right now for architects, civil engineers, contractors, and everybody sees a long list of people bidding, and they don't have the time to worry about, to put together a proposal on a project that they're not sure they're going to get. In this case, it's going to look like we're just shopping price in order to get a better price out of the architect that we've already got on
So,
hand.
Carolyn, I have a question for you. Do you think that
Yeah.
the architect is going to be more than 50,000?
No, I think the architect ought to be under 50,000 for sure. I think the architect service is enough that they would be under a contractor eventually that's going to I'm sure will be over 50,000.
Yeah.
So I would recommend asking Jakunski Humes for a proposal only. But when we get to the construction aspect, at that point, we're going to have a little bit more time in the schedule because Action Target needs about 20 weeks to fabricate. So they need about 4 weeks to design to our project, and then and then once we say go ahead, they need about 20 weeks these days, they told me, to get fabrication done, and then another 4 weeks or so to deliver and install. So in that 20 weeks where their equipment is being fabricated, we have plenty of time to identify a contractor and get some of the infrastructure work, if it's missing, some of that infrastructure work done before Action Target comes with the equipment. So, we can get the project going sooner, and I think at a good value by going back to just Jakunski Humes. I'm afraid that other architects are going to want to also add to their scope some verification of, whether they're field measuring or recreating the base drawings. The building architect is not handing that over to a competitor to start their part of the work. So there's going to be a little bit of a duplication of service if we go to another architect as well, which you'll pay for.
Do we have any kind of equipment list or anything that they're going to be using for heating and HVAC stuff yet?
Yeah, so I can circulate, I will distribute this as well. I can distribute the final quote where they describe, very small description at this point. I don't know. See what they say here about HVAC. There's nothing proprietary in here. They're just promising to design and provide a recirculating ventilation system that includes heating and cooling for the size of the range room that we have. So I don't know yet, but I know but we will obviously get from them more information on the actual equipment.
Thank you.
Other questions? And were there other things that you wanted to show us? Yeah, you had your schedule there.
Yeah, I really just wanted to look at I put together a really high-level timeline. If we were to start in about 2 weeks, which is the week that the Action Target folks are going to be out here looking at the space, if we were actually to start at that point, and this would include an approval on retaining the architect. I figure, we've got a number of weeks where we need to get the project mobilized. The architect might start working mid March and produce their documents through, the end of April, maybe a little bit into May. Action Target then takes their 4 weeks to design the system and their 20 weeks to fabricate it. And in there someplace, we identify and engage a general contractor who needs to do some of the infrastructure work before. Then Action Target installs their system, and the general contractor comes back and does some of the other work, like the lighting and the finish work. And there would be some approvals required all along the way from the Public Site and Building Committee. I think if we were to start in late February, we could be done in October, plus closeout. But I think we're looking at about a 36 week process. However we position it. If we don't start for a couple of months because we're identifying architects and getting a team together, it just pushes out the end date, a few weeks. But that's the overall timeline of what we're looking for the tasks on hand.
Great. So I think that we had a lot of good input here from different people. I understand what John Pern is saying about getting some other quotes as we want to look at for architects, looking at costs, et cetera. Yet spending the time to do that, and I appreciate Gerald and your input on the amount of time it could take and how much further out it could push everything. If we're looking at in some ways wanting to save money, maybe another architectural firm will think, well, they can do better, but at the same time, if they're having to, as Geraldine said, duplicate work that's already been done by Jakunski Humes and put in place, because this was an ad alternate. So there was a complete set of drawings that would basically need to be just updated rather than start from scratch.
Correct.
Are we saving money or are we not? I kind of am leaning, I personally am leaning towards we're probably not going to be saving money. And as the chief was putting out there too, we're most likely not going to be saving time. And Geraldine kind of confirmed that also. I think right now, Geraldine, you're looking for some direction from us. And I think, and the direction is, obviously we need to engage design team, keep things moving along. So any more input on that?
Yeah, I have two questions. Steve, did you talk to Brian about the Action Target of wanting to outfit it with the Action Target? Because Brian never brought this option to us.
Oh, yeah, he, not recently, but when we did try to squeeze this in when we were completing our project,
Right.
he was well aware of Action Target and was 120% on board with Action Target and happy with what they had to offer. Why he didn't offer that to begin with, I don't know, but
Yeah. Well,
he had no
doesn't matter.
problem with them whatsoever.
We're not gonna, but I
yeah.
think what we do then, if we're gonna try to move forward with just Brian, I think at least for the entire board, at least for me, is I'd want to see a breakdown on the cost. I
Well, we
want to
do
see
need
a breakdown.
yeah, we do need we need a proposal from him. Yeah.
Finish. No, so if Brian's proposal is, I'm just making a number up, 25,000. 5,000 for pre-construction drawings, 10 for layout with Action Target, and very itemized. And then my second question is, if the equipment that Action Target is going to put in for the firing range, if it's not proprietary, which it doesn't sound like it is, but I would like to see efficiency options. So then maybe we could go back to the utility and get an incentive.
Yeah.
So well, if the firing range is air conditioned, which it will be, right? And
Yeah.
it'll be, if you fall below the 14 SEER, you don't get anything from the utility. If you buy the unit that's 15 SEER, you get $200 a ton. If you buy something that's 16 SEER, you get $250 a ton. So that could be, a nice little piece of change that we get back if we're offered, you know, if it's just a standard package unit with special filters, I don't know. I've never dealt with a gun range before, but it's a circulating system, so I would think it's a package rooftop unit.
Yeah, that I don't know offhand, John. Maybe Geraldine does.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
About whether they have with you know, utility incentives in other jurisdictions, maybe that is, you know, or even in Connecticut. I mean, we can certainly look and see whether that's something that they'll help facilitate. Yeah, and get the specs on it.
Yeah, we did do incentives with the main building. And we did have the sort of redesign done where I think we ended up spending a little bit more money on a couple of units, but then we got a chunk of money back with the incentives.
Right.
So it might be worth checking into. It might not be doable, but yeah, that's, and
No, it's doable because this is a different program. The program we did for the police station and the schools was what they used to call the Energy Blueprint Program.
right.
Would use for the gun range is a simple, it's a simple 2-page document that any of us on the board could fill out, and the check will just go to the town. You know, we do it all the time at work, all the time.
It's worth checking into.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So next steps, Geraldine, obviously for you are being in touch with Brian about getting a proposal together for us.
Yes. Yes, if that is the authorized direction, I will be in touch with them tomorrow, tell them the project is starting back up. I will create a list, a breakdown of where I see his services being phased, so get a good breakdown on his fee. Yeah, give him a week to give us some information back.
So we can have something for the next meeting and
For sure.
be able, yeah. And then you'll continue, obviously, Action Target still has a few more things to flesh out.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, so
I
they'll
guess,
be, and they're going to provide these conceptual drawings. We'll start that coordination process, and I think that the only thing that I'm not certain of, and I asked Brad, he seemed to imply that the building committee needs to make a request of the Board of Selectmen for this bid waiver in support of the contract amount with Action Target. I'm not sure of that process. I'm not sure who requests, who authorizes, how we can move to getting Action Target with a, you know, under contract or with a purchase order, because I think that's going to need to happen pretty quickly after that site visit on the 23rd.
I can find out if I'm emailing Matt about having,
Yeah.
you know, somebody from the police department and police commission on the ad hoc part of the building committee for the firing range. I can also ask about the bid waiver process, and hopefully he can direct me to either direct us to what we need to do or direct me to who I need to talk to. If I need to talk more to Brad about it, then
because my thought is if we can get, so if I can get a proposal from Jakunski Humes, we get a confirmation from Action Target on their quote that that's still, you know, applicable based on their site visit, we'll be able to build a fairly accurate, or at least a confident total project budget, which I'm, at this point, I know I'm at about $995,000, but we'll be closer to some accuracy on that budget. And at that point, early in March, this whole approval process by the Board of Selectmen could be formalized, because I'm sure they're going to want to see, they're going to want to understand what the total exposure is for the project. And so that would be the timing of that approval, I think.
okay. So, and you said you were going to send around some of this, you're going to email some of the stuff that you were showing us.
Yep, the outline report, this timeline, and I have a preliminary budget, so you can see where some of those, what are my current estimate on some of the numbers are going to crashed down on. It's funny because my estimate for the architect's fees is about 25,000. So I'm right on what John was proposing. And yeah, I'll circulate all that documentation. I'll also circulate a full copy of the latest action target proposal and maybe a drawing of this drawing that I have extracted from the original drawing set, so you can see what the plan originally was for the firing range.
Okay. So, and then we have to figure out too, like, where can we start depositing documents so people can go and find them, so they have to keep sending us millions of pages of things if necessary. I'm not sure what I know for the project, we had something in place through Downs, and it was one of those file sharing things.
Yep.
And I think only a couple of us had access to it. We had a password, and I think it was John and somebody else.
Yeah, I think it was Dropbox they used, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think we did Dropbox. It was long enough ago where it was.
What about Procore?
No, it wasn't Procore. I think
No,
it was. Is there something called ShareFile?
There is
Yeah,
ShareFile.
I think you might be right, Nancy.
I think it was ShareFile. And so anything that was put into the file automatically generated an email, kind of like little thing to John and whoever else was kind of on the list. There were you, me, John Perna, I think, and Josh Adams who got them. And then we had a password. We could go in and look at them.
Right.
And they were, anytime there was a change order, anytime there was a drawing change, anytime all that stuff would pop up. Look at it if we wanted to. Documents to be used at meetings were handed out at meetings because we were in person back then, and that was processed. We didn't have to put them online, 3 days before the meeting like we do now. But if we could come up with something that's easy for everyone to access, I don't know if the town has someplace like a Google Drive thing that, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have to decide now. We can think about it.
Yeah, I'll try and come up with some alternatives. It's along with being easy, it really ideally would be something hosted at the town, because otherwise at the end of the day, I go away, the contractor goes away, the architect goes away, and sometimes the access to those shared files are not maintained. So if the town needs a record, so let me see if I can find out if there's anything else going on, anything else that the town uses in order to collect documentation like that. Otherwise, I can set something up. We use eBuilder for construction projects, but I can also use ShareFile or any number. I could probably create another Google Drive, a shared Google Drive, but it would be on my personal account. So let's strategize how we can pass documents back and forth.
I could email Nick, IT Nick, and see.
Yeah.
And I can also ask Matt if he knows of any other departments that have something like this set up and how they've set it up.
Steve, do you use anything with the police department or are yours proprietary?
Yeah, I could check into it, John. I think we do have some stuff on Microsoft team stuff that I think might have something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If we get access outside the building, I don't know, or outside our network.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have proprietary information, so that may not work.
Yeah, I doubt it, but I'll at least look into the possibility.
Yeah, I would think that the town would be sort of setting something or starting to look at something like that, because paper files are, there's a basement at the municipal center full of paper files that are not terribly organized, and I'm sure they are full of stuff that we might need, we as a committee might need to access, or somebody else at some point might need to access, as far as building documents, construction documents, plans, and to have stuff in an electronic town space would make sense. So I can add that to my list of things I'm going to ask, and Steve can check, and we'll just all check and see if we can come up with the best option for everyone. So we want easy access for all the, if Geraldine is going to say, here's what we're going to discuss at the next meeting, it's at the share file, or it's at the, the Google Drive share file, then we want to be able to all jump right in and use it simply and easily. And as Geraldine said, it's not going to disappear when STV when we're done, and STV's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
All right, anything else that we need to know, either from Geraldine or Steve? Anything else for us?
That was my report, and just looking
Okay.
for the go-ahead. So I'm good.
Yeah. I think it was good they put in as far as, you know, good hashing everything out and coming up with the best plan moving forward. Okay, so we'll have more to discuss at the next meeting, as we'll have some proposals to look at, et cetera. So we're done with police station part, I believe. So we can move on to municipal center renovation.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Take care.
Take care, Steve.
And thank you, Geraldine.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Oh, yeah.
So
All
on the, that's okay, there we are. On the municipal center renovations, I don't have any more updates. I need to be bugging people about giving us some direction. You know, I want to run over to Peter and say, get going on the plans, and don't have authorized. They did authorize a while back about using an amount of money from the grant, that's the grants that are out there. But then went over to this Gordian group to start working on with them, and then I don't know where that went. And I've asked a few people, and I need to kind of push a little bit more to get some updates. I did notice, because one of the things we talked about in the GP room lobby area, we were going to put new doors in, new exterior doors, and new doors into the GP room. And the Board of Selectmen were the ones that came up with that hallway that goes down to the gym, that whole window wall, exterior window wall with a door in it. They want that done too. They want to update that and make it more sound, energy efficient, et cetera. It's going to obviously add to the cost of design, but also add to the cost of construction. But new doors would be good. All those doors, hi Kathy's cat, all those doors are just not working right. They stick, they lock when they're not supposed to lock, they don't stay unlocked, they don't stay locked. And I had mentioned, why not throw in some more, because all along the front there's 5 different doors. Well, a couple of weeks ago, they actually put a new door in the front lobby by the first selectman's office. They finally put a new door in. Been asking why not do that, and they finally did. So the biggest part of that, something we're going to need to consider with this project, would be they did put the money in place to do the doors, and they put an order in for the doors, and it took them a long time to actually get the doors in place. It was like a lot of other things don't show up as quickly as they used to.
Yeah.
So some of that's going to need to be taken into consideration. You know, Geraldine brought it up with the firing range, but when we start working on the municipal center locker room whole area, they have to take into consideration as far as putting a schedule together, how long it's going to take for things. So I think that's all I have.
I have
Anybody
one
have?
question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
When, I'm assuming it was Matt that asked us to take over the gun range.
Yeah.
Mission of the gun range, right? Did he give us a budget?
No, he assigned the project. So as Board of Selectmen will assign a project to us, and in a way, the firing range was assigned to us when the Board of Selectmen assigned the whole entire police station project back however many years ago. But
the
they
money is coming from
reassigned.
somewhere.
Yeah, they reassigned and said it's all yours. So they don't usually come up with a budget. Often when they assign us a project, there is a cost, because there's been some studies done ahead of time, like we did the needs assessment study for the police station. There were studies done, and I think, John, you might have been a part of it, for the school project to come up with some costs. So there wasn't anything put in place, except for a number that the police department had a action target number from a couple of years ago. It was around 60 something. And they then asked, they come up with a cost to go to the Board of Selectmen and say, here's a total cost. They actually asked Rizzo some maybe Ed Barrett and Trippy to come in and look at everything and give them a cost, action target plus HVAC, all the electrical, et
Yes.
cetera. And Rizzo came up with a cost.
Yeah, I guess we got a couple of things floating out there, right? Geraldine's got to look at and see if action target includes prevailing wage or required to pay. I honestly think, I don't see how you're not gonna, but maybe there's something new I'll learn out of this. I think secondly, we got Geraldine's expense, right? We got a general contractor's expense,
Mhm.
and we have an architect's expense.
Mhm.
I think somewhere we should mention to Matt, this has a possibility, I'm just making a number, at 1.5. And
Mhm.
it says, yep, that's there. My little bit of fear in this is that there's already been hands in the pot, you know, so to speak. And the numbers are floating out there that are not accurate.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're gonna get accurate numbers, but I think we should at least, I mean, we'll give Geraldine a week or two, but you heard her say on the GC side, it'll definitely be over 50,000.
Mhm.
You know, and then you got Brian's, right? Then you got Action Target. You know.
Right, because she did have her, yeah, she did have her, yeah, her bottom line number was like 994, something like that. But that's not including prevailing wage. So if you've got to add in prevailing wage, we could easily go over.
Well, it's 25% average.
Yeah.
Average is 25%.
Right. And that's
And it's-
something that,
It's not a question of what normally happens. And something like this is Action Target staff comes out to do the work. And prevailing wage just says how much they have to get paid.
Mhm, mhm.
That's the short story.
Right, right.
Well, I think we should at least ask Matt. By next week, we should have some numbers for Geraldine on what we think, you know, somewhat of a rolled up number
Mhm.
on what we're talking about.
Because if the Board of Selectmen has assigned this to us, they must have some sort of money put aside somewhere.
And I'm sure they do, but we'd hate to do the work for 2 months and find out, oh, no, they told us it was gonna be 800,000.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, no,
Yes.
sorry, it's 1.5. I'm
Yeah,
making it up.
yeah. No, you're
If
right.
somebody said, yeah,
You're right. You're right.
it's no problem, we got grant money, or, you know,
Yeah, I don't know as it's any part of the grant money, but you know, it would be good
oh,
to
no,
know.
I'm just using that as an example. you
Right,
know.
right. But it would be good to make sure that they're, you know, they're definitely committed to it. Are they committed to do it at whatever cost it's gonna come in at? And if it's over $1 million, do we have to have a referendum?
And I tell you one thing, I hope somebody buys me a chair like that Dave Olson got there, that new, he looks like a flight attendant. Right, Dave?
He's gonna blast off. Where'd you get?
Doesn't it look like he's in the cockpit of a new Boeing?
Yeah,
That's a
it might be one of
$1,200
those,
chair all day long.
That chair's
Maybe-
John, this is not an expensive chair. This is a cheap chair.
no, come on.
not a massage chair.
Better than most business class airplane chairs, but nonetheless.
I think he did the size, John. I think he's booking numbers and he's got a lot of money.
This was a Christmas present.
That's a gorgeous chair. Look at the size of the thing.
Does it miss?
Got
does it
arms
miss-
on it. It's wider than I am.
Dave, get up and let them see the full picture of that chair. Come on. Look at that thing.
It looks like a Mercedes seat.
Yeah.
It looks
Holy-
like Star Trek. He's flying the
You
Star
got,
Trek ship.
like
Right.
heat and vibration on there and stuff.
Yeah, you get-
It's got a push button on the side of it. I haven't pushed it yet.
Uh-oh.
I can imagine what it does. Don't tell us.
Big question, does it have a cup holder?
No, no cup holder.
It's not worth it.
That's right here.
Okay.
We don't know if it does massage or not. Okay. John Menti, do you have a
I make a
question?
motion we adjourn because we can get in trouble with this recording.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Aye. Good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.